Welcome back to the Volunteer Geographic Information module. Now in the last video we covered the definition and historical context of volunteer geographic information. This means we can move on to a particularly fun part of the Volunteer Geographic Information module, which involves actually getting our hands dirty and contributing VGI ourselves. The goal here is to help you become more familiar with VGI and also to help you gain a better understanding of what VGI is all about and more effectively use VGI in any spatial computing projects you may be involved in. In the previous video, we talked about a number of different sources of volunteer geographic information. For instance, we talked about OpenStreetMap and we talked about geotagged Flickr photos. VGI is still a relatively new area, so there is no widely accepted categorization of VGI data sources. That said, it's clear that three types of VGI have been particularly influential. The first type of VGI that we're going to consider and that has been very influential is social media VGI. So here we're talking about geotagged tweets, Yelp reviews, which are of course associated with a specific store in the real world, and of course geotagged photos. The second type is VGI that arises out of peer production communities like Wikipedia and OpenStreetMap. Now these again are peer production communities because there's no expert leading the charge. It's all a bunch of peers working together, and we'll see a lot more about that in a little bit. Now finally, the third major type of VGI that we're going to talk about today, but not really focus on for the rest of the module, is citizen science VGI. Finally, the third major type of VGI is citizen science VGI. We're going to be focusing on social media VGI and peer production VGI for most of this module, but in this video we're going to get a quick sample of citizen science VGI so you'll get an understanding of what it's about. You'll sample the flavor of citizen science, and if you're excited about it, we can point you to more resources. As we discussed in the last video, social media VGI is effectively social media with a geotag. And now, if you'll remember, a geotag is a geographic reference, typically a latitude and longitude coordinate attached to a piece of content, in this case, a social media post. So the first type of social media VGI we're really going to dig into is Twitter VGI, or geotagged tweets. But before we get into how you create a geotagged tweet and how you access a geotagged tweet, I want to talk a bit more about how geotagged tweets are used. They're an incredibly important resource in a lot of areas of research and practice in computer science and geography these days, and spatial computing more generally. They've really changed the game in a number of application areas and have created some new application areas, and let me show you what I'm talking about. So this here is a map of tweets, geotagged tweets, during the USA-Portugal game, which occurred during the World Cup for me about a month ago, for you guys a few more months than just 1 month ago. The red here indicates tweets that Twitter has judged using some text analysis to be in favor of Portugal. And the blue tweets are, of course, tweets that are in favor of the United States. And then you can watch how many of these tweets exist throughout the game. So I'm going to play this video here. You can see up in Europe there that there are a number of Portuguese fans, which makes sense. Same in Brazil. We can watch, and as we hit a goal, you'll see a big explosion of new tweets. So I think there's a goal coming up here by the United States, as I recall. It was a good moment for me. If there are any Portuguese fans. Oh, there it is. Was not so much. It's not such a good moment for you folks. Another goal by the USA, that I believe was Clint Dempsey, and then here's the heartbreak. Portugal scored at the very end. So you can see this type of application would have never been possible without social media VGI. It's just something that's fundamentally new. Same type of deal here. This is a screen grab from a really interesting research paper. I recall reading it when it came out. It's a 2010 paper. I recall reading it when it came out, and I was just blown away. Effectively, what these researchers have done, what they did and reported in this paper, and it's really been influential in the field. A lot of papers cite this paper. Is they effectively developed a earthquake monitoring system just looking at tweets, so they can figure out where an earthquake is, and to a certain extent, they can also figure out where the waves are traveling and how fast and these types of things just by watching when people tweet about earthquakes. It's pretty impressive stuff. A third application here is also from the research domain. This is pretty interesting. It's from public health. And public health has been quite active in incorporating geotag social media into its research and its practice. And what you're looking at here is a series of maps of the United States. And the colors here, these researchers aren't using sort of best practices cartography, which is typical within computer science. It's one reason why we're offering the spatial computing course. You'll notice there's a whole module on cartography and geovisualization. So the important thing to know here, though, is that sort of these darker colors indicate places where there are a lot of tweets about allergies, right? So they wrote an algorithm that could detect those tweets. Lighter places are places where there are fewer tweets about allergies. And this makes sense, right? In February in the United States, these are warmer areas, so there's not a lot of snow in these areas outside of mountains. So they get allergies first. Here we are in Minnesota. In February, we are covered in snow usually, so not a lot of opportunities for allergies. But you can see by April, that has all changed. And they were able to detect this just by looking at the types of things people tweet, so pollen, bloom, et cetera, et cetera. These applications are super, super advanced, right? But they all start with something very simple, and that is a person using a Twitter application. Now, this application can be on a smartphone, it can be on a computer, it can be on an iPad or whatever. For the most part, though, these geotag tweets are going to be coming from smartphones, and we'll be talking a lot more about why that is in the positioning lecture. But these amazing algorithms all start with something very simple, which is a geotag tweet, and let's walk through how you send a geotag tweet out to your Twitter followers. Okay, here we are. We are going to write a geotag tweet. This is the Android app, Android Twitter app. I'm an iPhone user primarily. I'm trying to learn Android for you all because I suspect most of you are Android users. So do forgive me if I make any stupid mistakes here. You can see here we're in the Android Twitter app. We're under the account, the Spatial Computing MOOC account. You should follow this account if you're a Twitter user. We will be tweeting very interesting tweets, hopefully. You can see there's a little lock here. That will be removed by the time you guys see this. Okay, let's write our tweet. I have pre-prepared a witty tweet here as our first geotag tweet. It's very exciting. So here we go. Is this the first live tweet from a MOOC video? And then here's my joke for those of you who are Oscars fans. Okay, here's my Android mistakes. There we go. There's a question mark. Okay, it's like, let's try that again. It's like Ellen at the Oscars. We'll try that too. I bet I could have just let autocorrect handle that. Let's try this. Very good. Okay, it's like Ellen the Oscars, for those of you who watched the Oscars this year. I'm missing an apostrophe there, but hey, it's Twitter. All right, let's add a hashtag. Can't have a tweet without a hashtag. None of those. VGI rocks. How's that hashtag? Okay, now here comes the critical part. See, if you see this push pin here, that is the push pin to geotag my tweet. You can see Twitter's asking me if it can use my location. I'm going to say yes in this case, and voila, there I am in the lovely University of Minnesota MOOC studios, and I'm going to send this geotag tweet off to the Twitterverse. Okay, so we sent our tweet to the Twitterverse. What happens now? Well, if you follow me over here to the screen, I'll show you. We can open up a Twitter client. Only some of them will do this, and I'll talk about that in a second. But this is Echo Phone. It's a Twitter client you can get for free in the Mac App Store. I don't know what the deal is with Windows. It might also be available for Windows. And you can see here is my tweet. Is this the first live tweet from a MOOC video? It's like Ellen at the Oscars. Very good. And you can see there's a little green push pin here. That indicates that it's geotagged. And what do you know? If I double click there, oops, maybe single click, it will tell me where this tweet came from. So I send this tweet out to all my followers. All my followers can see where I was. And I have opted into that process. You'll notice, though, that if you look at some of these geotag tweets on the Twitter website, for instance, you actually won't see the precise location. Twitter's been changing this a lot lately, so by the time you watch this video, it might even be different. But I do want to point this out. You'll see it does say that it was tweeted from Minneapolis, Minnesota, which is where the University of Minnesota is. But if I click on this, it doesn't show me a map. It shows me all the other tweets from Minneapolis. And you can see there's lots of fun things to do in Minneapolis, but it does not show me the specific, oh, that's a nice one. It does not show me the specific location from where I tweeted. So we saw that your Twitter followers, and actually if you have public tweets, which most people do, anyone who can access the Twitter website or use a Twitter client anyone can see not only the content of your geotag tweet, but also the geotag as well. But it's not only people that can do that. Any programmer worth her or his salt can write a quick program to download a huge number of geotag tweets that people publish from all over the world or from a specific area. So for instance, in just a couple minutes, I was able to write a quick program that downloads all of the tweets that Twitter will provide me that mention the term Justin Bieber, with Justin Bieber being, of course, a very important topic on Twitter. Now, when I said all the tweets that Twitter will provide me, well, Twitter charges a lot of money for folks who want all tweets. What programmers can do is they can get a subsample of, or excuse me, a sample of tweets. Very small sample, but since there are so many tweets, you'll see there are quite a few that you can download. So let's move on over to my program here and hit the Go button. And what this program's doing is just saying, hey, Twitter, anything that has Justin Bieber in it lately? OK, so what we're looking at now is a sample of tweets that are published right now, right this second, that have the word Bieber in it. You can see that we've stopped here, and I've set up my program so that it stops when it finds a geotag tweet. So for instance, here is a geotag tweet from this latitude and longitude coordinate. We'll hit enter, and you can see how fast this actually very small sample of overall tweets comes in, just because there are so many people tweeting about Justin Bieber at any given time. Here's a geotag tweet, this one here, from this latitude and longitude coordinate. We can keep going and keep going and keep going. And one thing you'll notice is that a small percentage of tweets are geotagged. I mentioned this in the last video. The numbers vary depending on the research study, but in general, it's around 1 to 3%. We can keep going and going and going. Lots of tweets about Justin Bieber. Probably not so many tweets about spatial computing. OK, so that's that for Twitter. Let's move on over to Instagram. I'm going to open the Instagram app on Android. You can see this is the Spatial Computing Instagram feed. Lots of fun stuff, including one of my favorite players from my San Francisco 49ers. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take an Instagram photo. We're going to geotag it, and we're going to upload it. So let's open up the photos here, and let's look at the wonderful guys who have been responsible for so many of your lovely MOOC experiences here at the University of Minnesota. Hey, guys, you're on camera. Say cheese. Very cool. All right, now we got to pick a good filter. That's a pretty good shot. Let's do X Pro 2. These guys are pretty cool guys, so X Pro 2 sounds cool. Let's go over here. It's processing, and now here comes the geotagging. Let's put a message here, right? So cool MOOC, MOOC dudes. I think that's what we'll do, right? Makes sense. OK, and we will now geotag it, which is just this thing they call add to photo map. Now, again, it's telling me that, in this case, that it's associating location. It's also telling me on Instagram. You can do this on Twitter as well. You can remove the locations from all your tweets, or in this case, all your Instagram photos. Boom, there we are. I'm going to hit the check mark there, and we have a geotagged Instagram photo. And we should be able to see that in my overall photo map, which is here. There it is. It should be approximately the same location, more specifically exactly the same location minus any positioning error. There is our MOOC studio, fantastic, and there are the two cool MOOC dudes. So just as was the case with Twitter, not only can my Instagram followers see my photo and the geotag on that photo, programmers can do this as well, again, quite easily using pre-existing libraries. Again, I wrote some very quick code just to download all of the most recent geotagged photos in the University of Minnesota area, geotagged Instagram photos. And we'll run that right now, and you'll see that there are lots. And you'll see that probably a lot of people don't know that their Instagram photos are being geotagged. So here we're going to run this program. It's downloading all of the most recent, decided to jump over here, all of the most recent Instagram photos from my area, from the University of Minnesota. You can see there are a bunch of them. There it goes. and it's downloading them straight to my hard drive. So let's take a look at these photos as they come in. Going to this folder. For those of you who aren't programmers, I imagine this, I was just thinking to myself, this might be surprising that this is so easy to get all these photos, but let's take a look. Look at all of these Instagram photos of random people in the University of Minnesota area. At least you can see that people around here tend to have a good amount of fun. This is our beautiful art museum. I highly recommend you come visit. And you'll notice that if we look closely, there are our cool MOOC dudes. So we were able to pick this one up with the code. Okay, so that should give you a good idea of how you create social media VGI, how that VGI is accessed by your friends, followers, contacts, the general public, and also how it's accessed by spatial computing technologies. Obviously, most spatial computing technologies that take advantage of social media VGI are much more advanced than the very quick programs I wrote for you guys, but that should give you the basic idea. I do want to pop up a bit to a higher level and just go over 3 high-level points in terms of how social media VGI works. There's basically a 3-step process. You create content, you geotag it, and you upload it. Your friends and your contacts, or the general public, right, if you don't have things protected, can see your geotag content, right? We saw that, for instance, over here, right, with the Echophone app. And in many cases, programmers can download your geotag content, assuming it's public. Okay, so let's move on to the second type of VGI we're going to consider in this lecture, and that is peer production VGI. And for that, we are going to first look and do a deep dive into Wikipedia-based VGI. Here we are on the English Wikipedia's main page. I'm sure many of you are familiar with the main page here. I'm pretty sure most of you are also familiar with the fact that Wikipedia can be edited by literally anyone. The one challenge, though, especially if you're not a Wikipedia editor, is knowing what to edit, right? How can you help out? Well, one way to figure that out is to go to the community portal here. It's on the left-hand side of all the pages. And here's a list of pages that need help and what you can do to help them. Spelling and grammar, for instance, is very easy to get into. You don't need to be a Wikipedia expert to correct spelling and grammar. So we're going to go do some of that. And I found a perfect article for this this video. It is on the second page here, and it is the West Campus High School article. Apparently, West Campus High School is a high school in Sacramento, California. This is an area where my brother and sister-in-law live. It's a very nice area. Unfortunately, the page for West Campus High School is not so nice. You can see it has a ton of listed issues by Wikipedians have gone through it and listed this. So there's some neutrality issues, may require some grammar editing, and so on and so forth. So we're going to do some very lightweight editing of this page to show you how it works. The very important thing to notice is that this article is geotagged, which means we're dealing with peer production VGI, right? If it weren't geotagged, more specifically, if it were about an entity that doesn't have a specific spatial footprint, then we wouldn't be dealing with VGI, we'd be dealing with just peer-produced content. But this is content about a place in the real world, so we're interested in it in this spatial computing course. Now to edit this article, we are going to just go ahead and hit the edit here. And wow, it's just right there. I will note that this page actually has is a little bit of a special case. Almost every page you can edit without actually even logging in. This page, they've partially locked it down, probably because high school students are some of the biggest vandalizers of Wikipedia. But we will continue on, and I'll show you that you can edit some very important pages without logging in. This is just something of a special case. Okay, so we're going to read what it says here. West Campus High School is a public high school. Is a public college preparatory high school in Sacramento, California. The school serves about 800 students, blah, 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 blah. So then it says here, West Campus used to be a satellite school of nearby Hiram Johnson, but it became its own school for the 2002-2003 school year. Now this isn't very encyclopedic, doesn't sound very professional, and it's missing an important link. And links are really important for a number of reasons. They're of course fun to click around on Wikipedia, but for the many applications that use Wikipedia as a source of world knowledge in the spatial computing domain, links between two places tell those algorithms, or so tell those computing systems, tell those algorithms, hey, these two places are maybe more related than two places that don't have a link. So adding this link will be important. Now to do that, we are going to have to figure out what on earth they're talking about. I suspect this is another high school in the Sacramento area, so let's try to figure that out. Hiram Johnson High School, perhaps. We'll Google it. And that is indeed what it is. We'll go to their Wikipedia page, and there is the title. It's a much smaller article. We could also add some content to this one. Fortunately, I'm not an expert on Hiram W. Johnson High School. If any of you are, I encourage you to edit this article. Okay, so we know this is called this. And in Wikipedia, to add a link, you just do these two little brackets. Don't worry about this too much. If you're interested in it, you can worry about it. You'll see that you don't have to know brackets to help out as well. So West Campus used to be a satellite school. Now, satellite school, okay. Let's say satellite high school, right? Of nearby Hiram W. Johnson High School, but it became perhaps an independent school. That sounds more professional, right? More encyclopedic, excuse me. In school, beginning in the 2002-2003 school year. Okay, we're just going to stop there, and we will hit save. There's obviously a lot more to do here. If you read down the article, there are some things that are clearly written by someone who's a fan of the school and perhaps doesn't know how to write encyclopedic articles as well as he or she should. And we hit save page, and we wait, and we find that we have a link, and we have our text here, right? I just changed how the world views West Campus High School by participating in peer-produced VGI. If you're anything like me, you'll find this very empowering. Now let's take a step back and look at some other peer-produced VGI. In other words, geotagged Wikipedia pages. So let's look at the University of Minnesota page. Just to show you how powerful you can be even as not a logged-in editor. Now, anyone can create an account, of course, but just as someone who has no history of editing at all, let's go back to the University of Minnesota here, and I can just go ahead and edit this very important article. I mean, the University of Minnesota has tens of thousands of students. It's a huge university, very prominent university, but I can edit anything I want. If I were a bad person, I could vandalize it. For instance, I could say, let's see. It is a wonderful school to study in. Very terrible grammar. We're not going to publish this anyway, especially for students who get to know us through the Spatial Computing MOOC. Now, if I were a bad person, I can go ahead and hit save. I'm not a bad person, so I'm going to click out of here, leave page. But you get the idea. If I did click save, I would be contributing peer-produced VGI, although doing so in a somewhat malicious way. So as I mentioned before, Wikipedia is a very prominent source of peer-produced VGI, but OpenStreetMap is perhaps not as well known in the general public, but among folks in spatial computing, OpenStreetMap definitely is equally prominent with respect to Wikipedia. So here we have OpenStreetMap. I have logged in as an editor. In OpenStreetMap, you have to log in as an editor. And you can see the map. Once again, you'll recall from the last video, this map is, the data in this map is used in all sorts of systems. You can download it yourself, use it in whatever you want. This is a great way to bootstrap a new spatial computing project for those of you who are in the technical track. But this OpenStreetMap is used by MapQuest now. It's used in Apple products. It's used in who knows how many other products. But here's the actual real map. You can also go to the map just by going to openstreetmap.org. Here we can zoom around. This is the University of Minnesota. You've seen this map a couple times today. If I click edit, you'll see that the entire map becomes editable by me, which is totally crazy. Let's actually just reset that for now. I am still kind of blown away by the extent to which you can change how this very important data set views the world. So again, we're going to do something and we're not going to save it. But so here's a street, right? Let's just take this street here, and let's change where the street goes. Now it goes over here. Look, there's an intersection too, right? If I did this and we ran routing on OpenStreetMap data, which is done by a number of systems, we might have a route that doesn't exist, right? But I'm going to go back because I'm not a malicious person. And let's add something that's useful. And OpenStreetMap is in many ways pretty complete with respect to basic stuff. There's some more advanced things, for instance, tags that are definitely not complete, and some more detailed types of layers. But for the basic stuff, it can be sometimes hard to find a new thing in certain types of areas, particularly cities. But let's add Something that I did notice is not here, which is one of my favorite lunch spots around here, and that is Brugger's Bagels. That's just a chain bagel place. If I eat a big lunch, I sometimes get very, very sleepy, so I like just simple lunches. We'll select the feature type here. It's a cafe. The name is Brugger's Bagels, and I'm just going to double check my notes here to make sure I spelled that correctly, because that is a rough spelling, at least for English speakers. Those of you who are German may think I had a very easy task there. We can choose the cuisine, or we can not for now. I actually was looking earlier, and it looks like maybe coffee shop's the best or sandwich, but I couldn't decide. So let's just put that aside for now. You don't have to do everything. And there's an address. So let's put an address. I looked this up. It's 720 University Avenue, Southeast. So 720 University Avenue, Southeast. And of course, Minneapolis. And the postal code is 55414. And we could look up the hours and these types of things. There's a whole bunch of other options. Does it have wheelchair access? I don't know. This is a great feature they have, and so on and so forth. But I think this is good enough for now, and let's actually hit save. And there we go. The changes that you upload as spatial comp class, that's what we are, will be visible on all maps that use OpenStreetMap data. Look at that. We just contributed to OpenStreetMap. So that's peer production VGI. Hopefully you know more about peer-produced geo-reference information than you did before you started the video. Let's move on quickly to the last of these three social media types, citizen science VGI. A citizen science VGI is important, but it's maybe more specialized than the other two. Our focus in the rest of this module is going to be in the other two. But I wanted to give you an understanding of what citizen science VGI is all about. To do that, of course, we need to grab a definition of citizen science. And I thought since we just looked at peer-produced content, it might be fun to see what Wikipedia came up with when it comes to citizen science's definition. And they came up with this, which I actually think is quite good. Citizen science is scientific research conducted in whole or in part by amateur or non-professional scientists, often by crowdsourcing and crowdfunding. And that's a pretty good definition. It gives you an understanding of what's going on. Some keywords here are amateur and non-professional scientists and real scientific research, so that this is legitimate scientific research. And so much of citizen science involves research projects that have some sort of geographic reference, some spatial reference. So you can imagine counting birds. This is a citizen science project that's actually goes back well before the online era, and so on and so forth. The one I can show you right now without going out into a wetland, for instance, and counting birds or measuring water levels is this one. This is Seafloor Explorer. It is a part of the Zooniverse family of citizen science projects. I really recommend you check it out. Really low impact, and we're actually going to do a quick demo in a second. But first I want to go over the science. Effectively, what they're trying to do is gather from regular old folks like you and me in this case, training data to train machines to understand what types of species are on the seafloor, where they are, and so on and so forth. And for instance, they want to allow scientists to ask questions like, what is the current distribution and abundance of sea scallop and yellowtail flounder on Georgia's bank? These types of things. These are questions, obviously, that are very important for fisheries management, understanding the success and decline of species, and so on and so forth. And we, as regular old folks, can help them solve this scientific problem. So let's walk through a demo real quick here. Okay, so here we are on Seafloor Explorer. It's very simple. There's some quick training you can take before you launch into this. It takes about 2 minutes, and I did that. What they want me to do here is say the type of ground that's in this area, which I learned is sand, versus shell, gravel, cobble, boulder, etc. Done identifying ground cover. And then they want me to basically highlight a whole bunch of these sea stars, right, or in other species. So here's one, and here's one, and here's one. Oops, that's a little bit off. You guys get the picture. And if I were to do all of these, I'd just hit done, and the scientists would be able to use this in their training or in their building of machines or algorithms that can identify sea stars, separate it from the sand, and do this automatically. Now, one thing that's very important here too is this data, it's just in and of itself is quite valuable. This image here is georeferenced, and now they know there are a whole bunch of sea stars in this area, right? So this becomes what I'm doing, citizen science, VGI, right? I'm contributing voluntarily information that is geographically referenced. And that is that for citizen science VGI. Okay, so that's it for volunteer geographic information. I do want to do one last thing in this video, and that's give you an example of traditional geographic information. You know, I was talking about this traditional geographic information, how different it is from VGI, but I think it'd be helpful to show you at least one example of what this traditional information looked like. In other words, this would be the type of information that you would have been dealing with if you somehow took this class using some proto-YouTube or something in 1999 versus in the VGI era. Okay, so I will show you this example, a very canonical example. This is the U.S. Census Bureau's website, and they offer traditional geographic information in the form of shapefiles. Shapefiles are just a data format for points, lines, and polygons, which you guys know all about now. And you can download shapefiles for county borders. You can download shapefiles for state borders, zip codes, and so on and so forth. Census tracts are one that I find myself frequently using. But one thing you notice here is there's no edit button, right? If I want to edit some of these files, it's not going to happen. That's a key difference, right? We talked about that in the first video. Traditional geographic information does not allow that type of thing. I do want to point out, though, that traditional geographic information, it's not like it's replaced by VGI. I mentioned this in the first video, but I want to reemphasize. VGI adds to our abilities in spatial computing, and it, to a certain extent, competes with some aspects of traditional geographic information. But traditional geographic information is still quite useful in many cases. For instance, I just mentioned I like to use census tract data quite a bit in my research. That doesn't have a correlate in VGI. And just to give you a quick example of what this does, so let's just do state. It'll be a very quick download. Let's do this one here, and there we go. I downloaded the shapefile. I'm going to open it in some software called QGIS, just a way of visualizing shapefiles and doing some other geographic information systems operations. QGIS is a relatively new program, but it's free, open source, and pretty good. And there you go. There are the state outlines, right? That is a pretty typical traditional geographic information scenario, excuse me. Okay, so that's it for today's video. I'll see you in the next video to talk about the third and the fourth learning objectives in the VGI module.